Only last week they had to apologise for a newsreader who made the same major error about Israeli forces twice on air. They had to concede that we said that medical teams and Arab speakers were being targeted. This was incorrect and misquoted a Reuters report. And that comes after weeks of failing to call Hamas exactly what it is, a terror group. And who could forget the BBC having to apologise for its inaccurate reporting on why Nigel Farage's bank account was actually closed. And we're hearing every week now some kind of blunder by the BBC, which is starting to look like it's only ever a blunder in the same direction, which is to be rather more pleasant about what's going on from the Palestine side and Hamas than it is coming from Israel.
Yeah, I mean, you've given some various examples there, and they are quite different areas, but certainly the coverage of Israel keeps falling into the same trap. And you would think that they would have learned by now that you have to be very careful when reporting data and facts on the ground that are coming out of Hamas spokespeople. You know, the Gaza Health Ministry, that's just Hamas. And the fact that their pundits and their newsreaders keep making these mistakes again and again, even after, you know, at the previous incident we've had it with the al-Shifa hospital, and then with that other hospital a few weeks back, where it was immediately reported that hundreds of people had died from indiscriminate Israeli airstrikes, and then it turned out that it was most likely far fewer than that, and it was a mistargeted rocket that was coming from from
and if anything,
Gaza.
the other one, Isabel, was even worse, where they were claiming, or more or less inferring, that basically, you know, the Israeli soldiers were walking through a hospital looking for Arab speakers to kill and looking for medics to also, in some way, punish, which was entirely wrong. It wasn't a misquoted Reuters report. It was a willfully, you know, misinterpreted Reuters report. And I've got Danny Cohen here, who's the former head of TV, who's now saying this tonight: the BBC's credibility with the Jewish community is reaching a point of no return. On a daily basis, Britain's Jews are being harmed through its unbalanced reporting of the Israel-Hamas war and the failure of its senior management to get to grips with it. That's a pretty serious allegation, that.
Very serious, but not without foundation. I mean, the big blundering corporation, as perhaps we need to rename it, just keeps getting it wrong, doesn't it? And with regard to the judgment of this BBC Africa correspondent, who saw fit to presumably be paid a large amount of money to provide expert evidence that was effectively, in my view, to do something very unpatriotic, which was to try to keep a rapist in this country rather than have him return to his country of origin, which is where he rightfully ought to have been sent many, many years before it happened, is quite extraordinary. She didn't break any rules. What she broke was a fundamental moral code, I think, there, because what she did, I think, was basically against the interests of our own country and the people in it and the safety and well-being of folk here. And I think it's astonishing that such a misjudgment was made. But maybe I shouldn't be so surprised, because the BBC is packed with bleeding heart lefties who think the interests and the well-being of a rapist like that should perhaps come before everybody else.
Well, this is the trouble, isn't it, Madeline? You know, they're more concerned about whether he doesn't get a job back in Somalia than they are about the fact that he might roam around West London and do a bit more raping. I
mean, it's just... If the stakes weren't so high, if it wasn't so tragic with such incredibly high stakes, I mean, imagine if you're one of this man's victims and you see that, you know, fortunes are being spent on legal aid for your rapist, and then on the most flimsy pretext, it's being said that his right to, you know, have a peaceful home life trumps your right for true justice. I mean, how that must feel. But, you know, if it wasn't so tragic, it would almost be laughable, because we really are kind of through the looking glass.
We are in this through the looking glass. Yeah. You're absolutely right. We shall explore that more, I think. Madeline, thank you very much indeed. Madeline Grant will be back with us again soon. Isabel, I think you're going to stay with us for some more talk about COVID and the inquiry.